are live once again on what could be the last episode of the story of with Manny Lagunes as we buckle down and kind of go over his final stages of his story. Manny, thank you for being here. Can you hear me? Your voice is gone. I
Yeah,
can't.
thank you for having me,
All
Bowie.
right, there you go. Just making sure that
Uh-huh.
we aren't having any issues. I know we had some internet issues beforehand, but it looks like we're good now. So thank you for being here. We're looking at the closing chapter of your story. Of I'm kind of excited, but also sad because it's been a long journey. We've learned a lot about not just you, but also your experiences, your trials and tribulations with inside of just a portion of your story. I mean, no amount of episodes can catalog your entire story and encapsulate everything that you've ever been through. But this is a definitely a moment in your life that was a highlight, something that you definitely will never forget, and something that you can pass on as knowledge to other people that could endure some of the same things. So looking at where we were talking about experiences in jail, and I'm kind of interested to find out what happened after being deported. What was that process like?
Yeah, I don't know if it's all cool on your end, but on my end, it's still a little bit chopped and screwed, as we call it in the hood. But I heard what you asked. So last episode, we sort of left off right about, and I started talking a little bit about the process that you go through to get sent home, shipped home, deported, whatever you want to call it.
You
And if you
sound
haven't
you
already,
sound like
check
an
out
Amazon
a
package that you're
previous
getting shipped
episode.
somewhere. And there is a delay. I can see that you.
Yeah, essentially that's what it is. I mean, Amazon has a better,
Just go ahead and talk. There's a delay. It's
yeah,
fine.
but I mean, in a lot of ways, it's in a lot of ways, it's Amazon. Like the example you used, Amazon has a better process of sending packages to your door. You would think the U.S. government would have a good process set in place to sort of send people home. Um, whether you're looked at as a criminal or not, it's you would think there'd be a good process. So last episode we were sort of talking a little bit about that. Now my process was this. Again, if you haven't already, check out the previous episodes. I was stationed at Calhoun County Jail. I spent 3 months there. At the end of those 3 months, and this was not a predetermined time. I had to go to trial. This was actually it was a conference call trial, sort of like this. You had the judge and you had me on the other side, um, sort of discussing what the next steps would be. Once the judge decided, an immigration judge decided, you know what, you're being deported. You sort of were told you'll be deported in the next 2 weeks, and sure enough, that was true in my case. I was deported in the next 2 weeks. Now it wasn't just like get out of we'll take you out of Calhoun and send you straight to Mexico. That was not the case. After those 2 weeks, they rounded a couple of us up. There was maybe um, 15 of us, 15 to 20 of us from Calhoun County. They rounded us up and took us to Monroe County Jail. Familiar with Michigan, the state of Michigan? That's a whole nother county. It's a whole nother county. I believe to the south of Michigan is where Monroe is at. South, maybe like southeast. I think could be wrong. Nonetheless, it's another county. And we were held at Monroe County Jail for a weekend. We arrived there on a Friday and we very early Monday morning. We arrived at Monroe County Jail and we were held there with, well, actually, I don't know if this was true for everybody, but in my case, I was held with other prisoners that were not there for immigration reasons. Um, I was there just amongst just your regular, American criminals, if you want to call it that, right? And I was there with them for a weekend. Sort of got to tell them my story and got to hear their story as well. Afterwards, we were rounded up on Monday morning, very very early. It was something like 3, 4 in the morning, damn near 4 in the morning. We were rounded up, and we were taken to an airport that was in, I really forget where it was, but I want to say it was a border with Ohio. It was at the border with Ohio and Michigan. You know, you have Michigan up here, you have Ohio down here, something like that. We were taken down to the border with Ohio, where there's an airport there, and apparently Homeland Security, Customs, and Immigration does some of their shipping from that airport. From that little airport, we were obviously we flew to Louisiana. Well, actually, we made another stop. We stopped in Virginia. We stopped in Virginia very briefly, where we would pick up other inmates, which was kind of interesting, um, seeing as how they would fly from Michigan to Virginia, pick up immigration inmates, and sort of add them to our load, as opposed to just meeting at a where we would stop Louisiana. Make it a straight trip and have them come to Louisiana. They figured, you know what, just stop in Virginia and then head down to Louisiana. That's what we did. We stopped in Virginia and we went down to Louisiana to a spot. Maybe I really forget the name, but I remember talking to some of the guards there, who, by the way, did not have any experience with immigration related uh, prisoners, right? And I spoke to them where we were, and they told me we were sort of a little bit like 2 to 2.5 hours away from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Um, and I was there for 2 days. Now this place in Louisiana, there's really no way to sort of compare it to anything else. And let me tell you why. This housing that we were in for Louisiana, when you walked in, it was almost like a hangar, like an airport hangar. You know what I'm saying? Like an airport hangar, and there was also there was blocks. We talked a little bit about the blocks inside of a jail cell, block A, B, C, whatever. In this hangar, where they were housing obviously women on one side, men on the other. And what I later found out was some of the inmates on this side were being shipped to Latin America. Others would be going to other places of the world. So this was a segregated place. What I would also later find out there was that all the people that were being held, at least in my block, were not just all people going to Mexico. We had people there going to Central America, El Salvador, Honduras, Guatemala, and people going to South America, Colombia, Argentina, Brazil, etc., etc. And I was there for, again, for 2 days. The conditions at this hangar, I guess you could call it, were not the best. Um, have you ever seen? Well, Bowie, I'm sure Bowie, and if you can sort of give me a yes or no, you've seen Scarface, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Al Pacino's Scarface. And one of the very first scenes when sort of Tony Montana is trying to come to America, he's held like in this camp, right, with other Cubans, and right, and they're being held like in these like little huts with just beds spread all around and just a bunch of beds. That's sort of what it looked like. Not that bad of a condition, but just the image was the same. There was just beds as far as, and I was there with people from really all of Central America, South America. Um, Now, there were certain things that I hadn't seen before. Very, very different things that I had not seen before, at least in a facility. One of those things were recreational activities.
I don't know what happened. It says that we're still streaming, but I did lose my camera for a second. I'm back clear and full
Okay.
screen, so I think it might be like perfect now. I don't know.
Yeah, you're definitely on sync now, voice and camera. So.
Well, that's good.
So, but we're still streaming, right?
Yes, to my knowledge, it still says streaming, but I will check online while you're continuing. So you were before we had that kind of technical difficulty, and it's my apologies because I am uploading several different other shows for the channel, and so I don't know if that's the problem. But you were talking about how you got in there and the conditions were bad. You saw beds that went really far down with inside of this hangar, and then you were going to elaborate on some of the other bad conditions. That's the last part that I heard before I went blank.
Yeah, yeah. So bad conditions as far as housing. There was a lot of people in that hangar, that block. A lot of people, like again, just beds as far as the eye could see. But again, there was something in there that I had never seen before, and this was recreational activities in the form of video games. I'm not sure who was funding this place. I'm not sure what the purpose of the whole thing was, but I remember officers sort of checking out, handing out sort of like your Nintendo DS, sort of like your old school Game Boys, PSPs. And I remember saying that, like, what is, like, where am I? Because, like, as far
For
as I could see,
what?
you see
Why are they
people
handing
just,
those out for for you to have something to do?
again, that's what I'm thinking. Like, I don't know what the deal was, who's funding the place, what their end goal was. I mean, mind you, this is probably like the last stop a lot of us would make in America. It wouldn't be my last stop, but and talking to some of the other inmates in there that were headed to Honduras and Central America, they had been there for weeks, you know, and yeah, again, it's a hangar. There's no, how would you say? There's no outside time. There's no like your typical, I don't know, little basketball court hoop that you see in most jails or whatever. There's nothing in there. So I don't know if that was to distract them a little bit, but in my mind, I it sort of took away the whole deportation feeling for a minute. You know,
And they took back this
because you look at it,
technology
you see all these people
afterwards.
like just bunking like 3 levels high, like in bunk beds 3 levels high. Yeah, yeah, yeah. There were certain times that you could check them out and use them, you know. But and then but just the fact that they had that thing is like you would never see that anywhere else. You would never even think anybody would have access to that inside of a facility like that. So
Not
yeah,
to
that
not to
was
bring you
shocking.
back to kind of stop you briefly for a second, but I do want to add that we are back to a little bit of a lag, and I don't know why. But just bear with me. I'm going to try and get through this, and hopefully without it shutting down. But I kind of wanted to. So after you had this experience and everything, um, what was the next step? But right before like going to Mexico, and then what was it like getting back? I mean, is it just like they just drop you off in a field and say, well, you're no longer on our property, you're now on your own, and go do your own? Like, how do you set up? Do they set you up with living and everything else? Like, how does that work?
Yeah. So after this experience, this stop in Louisiana, they shipped everybody that was going to Mexico was flown. We flew to Texas. We were flown to Texas to another hangar. And from Texas, right off the plane, we were put into buses. Right off the plane, we were put into buses. The middle of the day, hot as shit. There's nothing like that Texas heat, man. And we were sort of taken to the border. What I would later find out, or what I would later know, was that we would be taken sort of to McAllen, Texas. Um, that's the border town with Mexico. And once we got there, there is a bridge. For those of you from Michigan that are from Michigan, uh, it's nothing like the Mackinac Bridge. It's nothing like the London Bridge or nothing like that. No, it's a bridge that you wouldn't even think crosses countries. You know, there was people walking back and forth. Obviously, they had some sort of paperwork because they were being checked, and there was a sort of a road for cars to come across and whatever, and that's where our bus took. We made it across the bridge, barely made it across the bridge. It was almost like halfway where they stopped, almost halfway where they stopped in the bridge, and they took us off the bus. We still had handcuffs. We were cuffed at the ankles and at the waist. Um, and they started unloading all of our personal belongings. You know, those of us that had bags and luggage or backpacks, we could, start looking for our backpacks, and other people had just their things in plastic bags. Once you had like all your stuff or whatever, they uncuffed you, and actually what they all they did was just start walking that way. That's all they said. Start walking, and they pointed towards what one can assume is Mexico. And that's what I did. I mean, hell, and once I literally got to the other side of the bridge, um, there was nothing there. No escorts, a police escort, no government officials waiting for you there. Nobody to guide you. Nobody to sort of, I don't want to say welcome you, but shit, it's probably the least the Mexican government could do. Maybe even probably the least the United States government could do would be arrange some sort of meeting or handoff. You know, nothing like that. So I just walked, and I
That's
found actually a
not to
center
cut you off, and I know there's
that
going to be delay, but that's just so strange to me to just send somebody across the bridge and just be like, there you go. And so you still have to find a place to stay and food and a job and everything inside of that small amount of time. So what was the first thing you do? You go over there and there's nothing. Like, was that what you started to do? You started looking for a job and a place to stay and food and
well, the first thing I started thinking was I need to get out. I need to get away from the border as fast as I can. Life in the border in Mexico is terrible. It's a war zone. It's very, 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 very bad. It's a very bad
why?
situation at the
What
border.
makes it bad?
In my mind, I'm thinking, what if there's anybody like organized crime, sort of drugs, human trafficking, uh, that sort of thing. Drugs and human trafficking, organized crime makes it bad. It's right there at the border, so a lot of different organized crime units are sort of fighting for turfs. They're fighting for who can control what areas. So my first instinct was, what? Given my background, right? If you haven't already watched some of the first episodes, I'm gonna get away from here. That's the last thing I want is start dealing with some sort of heavy people that are really heavy into this sort of lifestyle. And that's what I did. Fortunately, I was able to find a place that sort of helped newly deported people find their way home. And I went to that center. They gave me a phone call actually to the states where I was able to call my family and let them know, hey, I made it down here. This is my plan. And like I said, my plan was to get away from the border as quickly as I possible. So I was on the next bus out. I took the next bus uh, as far away as I could. Um, at the time, my best option was make it over to the next state down, sort of. And that's what I did. I actually spent Christmas at in this state in a motel. It was Christmas 2018. And then once Christmas passed, I decided to sort of make a move for home. Now, I didn't exactly just automatically go home. Mind you, I have been locked up for 3 months. The last thing I wanted to do was sort of get to where sort of my people are and start answering questions, being questioned about everything, what happened, whatever. That was the last thing I wanted to do. So I took a little time off and I did some traveling when I first got down here. So that's as best as I can put it. I don't really want to get too technical into it, but I did a little traveling once I got down here. But I was relieved when I sort of got away from the border because it gave me almost a sense of relief. It gave me a sense of relief to just be able to say, I'm safe, I'm here, I've made it. I made it, I'm on my way home. Uh, I'm no longer in shackles, I'm no longer in handcuffs. I'm able to sort of just, move freely, move about. And for the first time in 3 months, I was able to breathe. I was able to breathe, sort of let down my guard. When I was at the border, I was still tense. I was still like, hey, do not let your guard down. Anybody right now could literally just decide to fuck with you, and who knows what's gonna happen to you. But once I got on that bus and once I decided to start traveling the country, it was more like, yeah, like a sigh of relief almost because I felt just relief inside me. I was able to breathe. I didn't have to sort of watch my back every 10 seconds. I didn't have to sort of, rely on anybody else to, look out for me. It was a sigh of relief. And I've been down here for 2 years now. I've been down here for 2 years. And things get easier, I want to say. Um, my immediate family is still in the States. So I guess in that aspect, things do not get that easier. But I've learned to adjust to life down here. Again, if you haven't already, check out some of the first episodes. Um, because life down here is very different. It is very, very different. And I'm gonna tell you something, Louis. I don't want to make this too long, but you and I both, we're familiar with Detroit, right? So when I got down here, the people that I started talking to, the people that I started meeting, started telling me these things. They started telling me, don't be out after dark, by yourself. Don't, go around to certain areas of the cities and certain states because, da da da. Don't be, looking at certain people crazy. Like if somebody's doing something, mind your business, keep your head down. These kinds of things. And in my mind, I'm thinking like, okay, well, there's violence, there's some poverty. There's certain areas that you cannot visit. And part of my head was like, where have I heard this before? And then it clicked. I'm like, Mexico is just a big ass Detroit to me, anyway, right?
Well,
Mexico's almost just like a big
well,
Detroit city,
just to kind of
And it was
to
like,
jump
okay,
in
well,
there,
I've done this
just to
before. I've
jump in there
actually
for a
actually
second,
really been
I'm
there.
going to say that I've heard stories about how rough it is down there in the capacity where it's like, hey, you need to make sure you carry so much money because if you don't, like they're going to rob you, and if you don't have so much money on you, they'll kill you, and they'll leave your dead body on the street, and people would just walk by and no police will come and pick. Like I've heard all kinds of craziness, and to me, I don't see that inside Detroit. I'm from Detroit, but I do see craziness, nonetheless. So I can sympathize with understanding that and everything. The thing I want to look at is you've gone through this entire process, you've been brought back, you've started a new life. Looking at this process, to me, I already see flaws. But what do you see as being flaws in the systems of deporting people? What could they do better?
The flaws, right? The flaws like in the system.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So the flaws in the system of deporting people, yeah. Again, I just told you a couple of those, right? I would think the biggest flaw, and this is from the Mexican government, is not welcoming your own people with open arms. And what I mean by that is, first of all, you're not making sure that they are arriving safe. These are people that have spent years and decades in America, either saving money, building a life, or sending money to Mexico. Excuse me. And for you to sort of turn your back on these people is very negligent, and you're sort of offering them to the highest bidder, being organized crime. Whoever gets to them first is like they're yours. You can kidnap them, ask them for ransom. You can take whatever they have with them. Again, that's very negligent. Also, I think they could set up sort of I don't know, some sort of booths, stations, where newly deported people that are coming into Mexico are sort of given a heads up or guided through the process as to how you go about adjusting to life. One of the biggest things I found difficult for me was acquiring identification paperwork. Because at least in Michigan, you have a driver's license, and it's like, well, with your driver's license, you can leave the country. You can identify yourself by liquor, by this, and drive a car. That's not the case in Mexico. In Mexico, you have at least like three different sets of identifications, including the driver's license. And why that is, I don't know. I do not get that. I don't know why they make things so tough, but I never knew about it. I didn't know shit. I had a driver's license in Michigan. I figured, oh well, in Mexico, that's probably all you need, a driver's license, and that's not the case. So yeah, just some sort of guidance. Another thing that would be good is sort of investigating what these people know how to do. A lot of us speak two, three languages. You know, I myself speak almost three because I did take French in high school and in middle school. So a lot of us speak various languages. A lot of us have picked up sort of trades and skills in America that are not necessarily taught here in Mexico or that you can't really learn here in Mexico. But nonetheless, we know these skills. We have them with us. Why not figure out what these people know and sort of point them in the right direction? You know, like for somebody again, in my case, you know, somebody that speaks English fluently, Spanish fluently, has, as a lot of us, a lot of you guys know, and Michael knows, has some experience cooking and you know being in a restaurant. Why not point them to some tourist spots, you know, near the big beach or you know where there's a lot of tourists, so that you can, I don't know, translate, work in some of these hotels that see a lot of American people come in, work in some of these restaurants that see a lot of American tourists come in. Um, there's not many things like that available. Definitely not at the border. And I think that's one of the things that Mexico could do a lot better.
Well,
Hell, if I were in charge, I
not
would
to
invest
jump
a
in
lot
because
more,
I
a
know that
lot
there's
more
lag, but I
money
don't,
here
I don't want to lose
in Mexico.
sight
I would invest it
of
in
what you're
sort of
talking about. Uh,
these type of these type of centers,
oh,
so
it
where
must
we
not be
can
going
help
through, but
sort of our
I wanted to
people
kind of
that
jump
are
in there. Sorry to interrupt, but I wanted to kind of jump in there because I want to, wrap up the time and everything. And I just, with everything going on with the lag, I don't want it to be an ongoing show. Even though with this is being, the last episode, I don't want it to just be an ongoing show of lag and possible problems of it going down. I hear everything that you're saying and understand, and I like I said, I was looking for what you saw as being problems. To me, I see it as being problems with the fact that the process took 3 months or longer. That if they're just gonna put you on a bridge and then say go across, I mean that could have been done easy peasy without you spending time inside of a jail for no fucking reasons. Excuse my French. So I think that to me, listening to your story, that is definitely a problem. But to kind of close out, the last thing I kind of want to talk about and learn about is what did you gain from this experience? And obviously you said your family's here, so not just what you learned from this experience, but which one do you prefer? Do you prefer to be there? Do you want to come back? Are you working on coming back? And what does that entail for you to be able to do so?
okay. First and foremost, I prefer America. To quote The Godfather, I believe in America. I was raised in America. So I prefer America. I understand that it may not be where I was, but it's certainly where I was raised. Um, do I want to come back is a difficult question that we might sort of not get answered right away. Because you have to understand that I made drastic changes once I got down here. I got back into school. I'm doing good in school. I found opportunities again speaking two languages through my own. Again, not through help, not through organizations, but by myself. I found these opportunities. So it's a tough question. Do I want to come back? I have loved. I love Detroit, Ipsy, stand up. It's a tough question. I mean, after all I went through in my city and my by through some people that I guess I grew up with, it's tough to answer. The last question that I heard was what did I gain from it? And what I gained, I guess, if I have to put it in short, maybe in just one word, is perspective. Perspective, because I sort of learned about the things that really matter. I learned sort of what it truly means to mature, what it means to sort of make a change for the better, what it means to lead a happy lifestyle. I learned, and if you again haven't already, check out some of the episodes below. I used to think that true wealth was of the pocket, failing to realize true wealth is of the mind and spirit. And being alone will do that to you. Realizing what true wealth means, what true happiness really is. And I'm glad I got got to experience that. I'm glad I got to experience 3 months being locked up, being tossed around, being passed from this jail to the next jail to another center. I'm glad I got to meet all the people that I did, and I'm glad that I'm here now, being able to tell you this story, being able to give you my testimony, so to speak. You know.
Well, I greatly appreciate you sharing that
Uh-huh.
story and your experiences and everything that you went through. I do
Uh-huh.
apologize on this last episode that we're dealing with the technical difficulties. We will review it and make sure that it came across, you know, clear and concise for people to understand. Otherwise, we will, maybe refilm it if need be. But I feel like this is important. This is not just the climax or part of the climax, but also the resolution. I think I just lost you, and it's loading and connecting, so it may come back, but we will see. And here we are. We are back. This is going to be probably quite possibly one of the most difficult shows to have to deal with. But as long as everything was visibly seen, yes, there might be some hiccups here and there, but I think that the message was there, the story was there, and if we need to refilm it, we can once we review it after this. But like I said, I don't want to continue, even though this was supposed to be a longer episode and have these kinds of issues. I think that we did cover that climax and that resolution, everything that you've been through within telling your story, and to me, it's a hell of a story. To me, I can't imagine some of those things specifically. Not even just being in jail, as I've never been incarcerated or put behind bars or anything. Um, but for any kind of crime or misdemeanor or whatever. But I also can't imagine the fact of just being put on a bridge and then going across. And I think that uh, I have similar situations when we get to my story. Which I can't wait for and look forward to. I want to thank you for joining me here on the story of Manny Lagunes and sharing with me and everyone else that's watching your experiences and everything that you have gone through. Again, sorry for the internet connection issues. I'm going to try and figure it out, or just not be uploading stuff when we're set to film, because apparently I can't handle it all. So thank you so much for being with us. Is there anything that you have to kind of add in there on this final episode of the story of Manny Lagunes?
No, make sure you subscribe. Subscribe. Hit the subscribe button. Bowie Films. Follow us on Facebook. Bowie Films. Michael Bowie Films. Follow me on Twitter. Follow me on Instagram. _ Manny Escobar. That is it for the story of Manny Lagunas. Thank you, Bowie, once again for giving me the opportunity.
No, thank you for being here and sharing with us your experiences and your story. And thank everybody else for tuning in. And like you said, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell, and let us know in the comments what you guys think. We are trying to grow not only the channel, but specifically this show. This show is something that really is geared towards telling everybody's stories. Everybody has been through something that has molded them or made them better or stronger, and sometimes even weaker, and that sometimes is still a point where it helps make them stronger. So that is the purpose of this, and I want to get everything figured out and put together, and that's kind of why Manny and myself are going first and telling our story, and we hope that we can get not only our story across, but build this product and build this show on this channel to something great. Thanks again for everybody tuning in, and we will see you guys on the next week's episode, new episode where we talk about my story of. Thanks again, and we'll see you guys then.
Whatever you do, don't